Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel for another new video. This week I'm returning to 10 Years of Doctor Who fans to make another instalment focused on 2010. Now first things first, as some of you might know if you've seen my previous video, or you might just have assumed because of the time of year it is, school has started again for me. I'm now in year 13, my final year of school. So what does this mean for you guys and for my videos and YouTube? Well, don't get me wrong, I'm not planning on slowing down, producing less content. I want to do it fortnightly, if not weekly. But just a little warning, just in case I don't make something one week or for a while. That's why, because of school, But no, I got through lower sixth all right, and every single other year at school I've got through them fine, while still making videos. So, I mean, in the exam period next year, there's probably going to be a period of hiatus for me, but for the time being, not planning on slowing down, not planning on doing less videos, but I will have to fit stuff in where I can, and just be wary of that and what that might mean for the immediate future of the channel. Now, if you've not watched 10 Years of Doctor Who fan before, what is it? It's me looking back at my time as a Doctor Who fan, which is now nearly a 10-year period, which, is quite something for me. I mean, I'm only 17 years old, but nevertheless, that's quite a big part of my life. We've reached part 3 so far. Today I'm going to be looking at 2010, and the great thing about this series, with regards to school and stuff, is that it just requires me to sit down in front of the microphone for about half an hour, just getting nostalgic about Doctor Who and my experiences as a fan in a particular year. So, 2010. For me, by this point, there was just so much going on. I've got a massive list of stuff that I've been able to retrieve from the depths of my memory, to jog my memory about various stuff. But like I say, just loads of stuff going on. It was the start of a new era. As I mentioned in the previous video, I kind of touched on the fact that, for me, the Moffat era in general, but also Matt Smith's 11th Doctor coming into it in 2010, it was a jumping on point for me. I'd seen a bit of David Tennant, and indeed, his final episode was on New Year's Day at the very start of this year. But immediately, when Matt Smith came on, although I wasn't sold by his first scene with the legs, still got legs stuff, all of that, this year, and his first series, Series 5, it was a real chance for me to take ownership of the show. I didn't have to worry about missing out on anything like I might have done with Series 1, 2 and 3, because this was the start of a brand new era, a brand new set of stories, a brand new story arc, and new everything really, for the first time in my experience as a Doctor Who fan. And it was exciting, it really was, with Matt Smith, Karen Gillan, a new Sonic, a new TARDIS, interior and exterior, title sequence, theme tune. It really was all change, and in the last video I actually touched a bit on how I'd seen filming pictures in 2009, and I suppose going into 2010 as well, and getting little flavours of how this era was going to shape up, and little announcements like Matt Smith, Karen Gillan, the photo of the new TARDIS. I remember seeing that it was one of the first Radio Times I bought actually, and they had a pull-out cover for the week of the 11th hour and Easter, I suppose, Easter Saturday. And you could pull out the cover to reveal the new TARDIS. It was some kind of exclusive thing, I suppose. For some reason, the Radio Times had got the dibs on revealing and announcing the new TARDIS. So you pulled open the cover, and there it was in all its glory, in orange and red, and just so different to the previous one. And like I keep saying, it was just really exciting. It was literally like a new show. Even though I just got into it, it was like getting into it again in a way. Collecting all the merchandise and everything, watching each new episode, watching a new series, a new era unfold before my very eyes. And as I'm sure many of you will have experienced as well, it was just such a brilliant experience. I mean, to be honest, Series 5 is just such a perfect series. I found every episode of this new era compelling. You had the brilliant 11th hour, just from the word go, a story that I absolutely loved. So fresh, so exciting, and thrilling to witness all these new things, the 11th Doctor's first full story, and him getting the costume and the TARDIS, and Amy becoming the companion, and pretty much all of the subsequent stories at the time I just loved as well. You had the running theme of the crack in time. That was a really great story arc, one of Doctor Who's strongest, and I just remember at the time, really wondering what is going on here with this crack. It was genius how it just kept appearing in different places. I don't know, the war rooms with Winston Churchill, or on the side of Starship UK, and then, in episodes 4 and 5, the Angel two-parter, how it played a more prominent role, and you really got the sense that it was going somewhere. I think that's the thing about Series 5. I'm maybe talking a bit more in hindsight here than my actual initial feelings about these episodes at the time in 2010. But you do get the sense that it's going somewhere, that it's all progressing to a finale, and each episode kind of feels important in a way, because like I say, with that first two-parter, it's almost like a finale in itself. It develops the crack, and because the crack plays such a pivotal role in the story, even things like the Hungry Earth and Cold Blood with the Silurians, another story that I absolutely adore because it's just so nostalgic, but a great story as well by Chris Chibnall. But even stories like that with Rory's death and Rory and Amy's choice as well, and all these episodes, it's a very kind of story arc driven series in a sense, but not like Series 6, in that it still feels like a natural series, and it still is very much the kind of series that you could just jump on at any point and watch and enjoy. But at the same time, there is that progression in there. I don't know if that's just me that felt that, but really, with those significant points like the crack in the Angel two-parter, or Rory's death, or even the absence of Rory and Vincent and the Doctor and the Lodger, it all builds towards that finale. And of course, the Pandorica opens. Oh, the Pandorica opens. I'm sure, I don't know how, don't ask me how, but I'm sure I knew that it was going to be the 11th Doctor put in the Pandorica when I watched that story for the first time. I think that image leaked, that image of the Roman Autons dragging him towards the box, surrounded by all those aliens. And I guess actually in hindsight, that was my first experience of being spoiled all the way back in 2010. Because there was that leaked picture. I'm sure there was some leaked concept art as well of the Pandorica, kind of green on black, showing the Doctor inside. And yeah, it was the point really, I suppose, at the beginning of the Moffat era, that spoilers were becoming a thing. I mean, obviously you had the return of River Song as well, which added to it, I suppose, and her story beginning in earnest, really, and her becoming a part of the fabric of the show, really, and also of the Matt Smith era and the Moffat era. That's another thing I love, that she just pops up all over the place. I mean, well, not all over the place, but she's there in the pivotal stories, like the Angel two-parter, like the finale, and you kind of get that feeling of a recurring cast, even though they're not always in each episode. That's the 11th Doctor and Amy and Rory and River. Those are the 4 core characters to the show, and it works really well. I think, like I say, Series 5 is an absolutely fantastic series. Even The Big Bang, which is slightly bland and perhaps a little bit of an anticlimax in some ways, in terms of where the whole series has been heading, and the coda scene with young Amelia and the 11th Doctor when he's going all the way back through previous episodes, that was just something I loved as a kid, how he goes all the way back through those episodes, how it ties into him appearing with and without a jacket in Flesh and Stone. Oh, that was genius. I remember reading the conspiracy theories online about that, and is it just a mistake or something they've done on purpose, an intentional thing that's going to be picked up in a later episode? But no, that coda, and then the wedding scene as well, and River turning up, being all enigmatic with the diary, and even to the last line about the Mummy on the Orient Express, and you know, the newlywed Amy Pond and Rory and the Doctor all going off in the TARDIS. Gosh, it was just such a brilliant time to be a Doctor Who fan. A great, often overlooked era, I think. Well, the Matt Smith era. It started off so well. I mean, Series 6 and 7, not so much. Certainly not so much as Series 5. But Series 5, it was great at the time, and it really still does hold up to this day. But anyway, getting back into 2010, what was going through my head at the time, I don't know if this was just me, but I was absolutely convinced that that year's Christmas special will be based on that throwaway line about the Orient Express, those little tidbits of information we get with the 11th Doctor's side of that phone call to whoever it was, Your Majesty of some description. I was convinced that was going to basically form the premise of the Christmas special, and it would all kind of continue as one long story. But it didn't, which was a shame. But no, we got the amazing A Christmas Carol instead. But I'll come on to Christmassy stuff a bit later on. Let's move on to what was going on behind the scenes, alongside the TV episodes, alongside Series 5, in my life, and the kind of the merchandise aspect of it as well, I suppose. In fact, let's do that first, I guess. The figures. Series 5 figures, you know, just amazing. You got that first wave, I remember it so distinctly, with the Weeping Angel, the broken, cracked one, the 11th Doctor, Amy Pond, and Hawthorne. You know, what the hell, but hey, Hawthorne, Peter the Winder, Bracewell, and Ironside Dalek. You know, I just wanted them so much. It was a great time to collect the figures. It was the kind of the getting towards the end, because Series 5 was the last time that we really got a good range of figures to go alongside a series. But I think what it was is that they put their all into it, in terms of merchandising, in all areas. All the brands put their all into the ranges that came out in 2010, because it was the start of a new era, a new chance to get, you know, new buyers and clients and all the rest of it. They put their all into it, and my guess is that with regards to the peg warmers like the Auton figures, Peter, the Winder, and Hawthorne, Bracewell, people like that sticking around on the shelves, they probably over-egged it a little bit too much. But nevertheless, we were able to enjoy 2010 figures for what it was, and there were some brilliant ones. The Paradigm Wave, the second wave with Francesco, the vampire, and the Smiler. Things like the Silurian Warrior and Leia. The Pandorica Wave. Oh gosh, that the 6-figure Toys R Us set they did as well brings back so many memories. And like I say, just a brilliant time to be collecting the figures. In fact, one thing I've completely forgotten about is that the very first release of the year, well, discounting the End of Time wave, which I didn't get until a later date, but no, the first one, like the same week as the 11th Hour, the 11th Doctor Crash set with the Raggedy Doctor and New Doctor in his bow tie, that just basically came out immediately after the 11th Hour had aired, along with a new Sonic Screwdriver. I must have picked those two things up pretty soon, because I remember getting the Time Crash, not the Time Crash, the 11th Doctor Crash set in particular. That was one that I got very soon after, very early on. And as well, the Weeping Angel and Amy Pond and Ironside, they were 3 that I got around my birthday, I think, or the summer possibly. Because that's the other thing, as a kind of precursor to Figure Adventures, I'm pretty sure 2010 was the year that I started taking photos of my figures. So I remember quite distinctly, and also from looking at some of the photos as well, which ones I had and which ones I took photos of. Unfortunately, I don't have many photos from kind of before 2012 because of a hard drive failure, so I've basically lost everything from before that. But there are some little fragments and bits that have managed to get through the, you know, and that are still around, basically. I remember the first photo I took, I'm pretty sure it was in January 2010, and it was of an Ood Sigma, and a little tiny micro-universe TARDIS, because I didn't have a flight control one at that time. And I took photos of them in the snow because, Planet of the Ood had aired fairly recently, and then The End of Time as well, with the Ood Sphere, and there was snow outside. I'm pretty sure school had said, you know what, it's so bad that you can just go home a few hours early. It was a Monday, I think. We went home at lunchtime, round and about. Luckily, I lived quite close by to my old school, so I got home quite quickly and took photos of my figures in the snow, like you do. And it started what has basically ended up becoming Figure Adventures today, for me, as far as I'm concerned, with many steps along the way. But that was the first kind of time that I did that. Another really distinct memory, slightly embarrassing, but let's go with it. I took my 11th Doctor figure to a wedding I attended in July or summer, sometime that year, in 2010. And I took photos of him out and about doing stuff like, well, the main memories I have of taking him to the reception afterwards and taking photos of him climbing up the chair in bowls, trying to eat the food and weird stuff like that. Like I said, I don't think they're still around today, unfortunately. I wish they were. Well, part of me does, for nostalgia. But yeah, that was a thing I did. In fact, oh yeah, as well. Oh gosh, I used to make figure stories as well. Not proper Figure Adventures, but possibly inspired by the early pioneers of Figure Adventures, like Batman March, maybe. I don't know. But I did them on PowerPoints. Like PowerPoints. And I planned out a first series of about 6 episodes, I think. And what they were PowerPoint slides, 1 photo per slide, and you kind of got a speech bubble of text, and that was it. So they were really, really basic. You had the logo on one slide to represent the title sequence. Gosh. Oh, in fact, yes. Right, so the Ood Singer thing in the snow, that became my first figure story adventure episode thing. I remember now, yeah. So from that, just randomly, by chance, spawned that first story. It was about the Doctor and Martha, because they were the 2 figures that I had at that point, which I'd got in the Utopia set. If you've watched the 2008 video, you'll know what I'm talking about there. The Utopia set, the first figures I got. So I had them and the Ood Sigma and a Captain Jack as well from Christmas 2008. And they were the companions. Yeah, they landed in the snow, I think, on the Ood Sphere, possibly. There was a prophecy, maybe. And then afterwards, later on, I continued the story that evening in my bedroom with my TARDIS playset and took photos of them in there. Pretty sure somehow Jack ended up beating up a Dalek, or like doing a somersault and kicking it to one side. Probably a lot less impressive than it sounds. 3 frames or 3 photos to represent the whole action. Oh, but gosh, yes, that was how it all started. I'm sure as well I did a story, the 6th story, I think, or 5th. Anyway, the final one in that proposed season. For that, I bought a Sea Devil figure. God knows why, but I wanted to do a story about the Sontarans and the Sea Devils at sea, because this was at a point when I knew I was going on holiday to Northumberland, and so I planned for this story to take place there, at the beach. It's all coming back to me now. I always used to do that, take my figures to the beach and take photos of them there and plan stories and scenarios around the beach and take advantage of having the beach there. So yeah, I did one there with Sontarans and Sea Devils. I used to have a little Sontaran ship. Well, I say ship. It was a little cuboid kind of cardboard box, and I painted it blue and cut some doors into it and stuck... gosh. It was one of those cardboard wrappers you used to get on a kind of 2-pack of chocolate puddings, the microwavable ones, little tiny pot ones. Turned that round, and that became the console, I think, for him. So that was his ship, yeah, and I'm pretty sure I took that to Northumberland as well, and that happened on the beach. I remember nothing else about the story other than it involved one sea devil and some Sontarans. But unfortunately, it's been lost to the mists of time. One thing I do remember is that I lost my initial lens cap there from the camera that I had at the time, because when I started these things, I was using a really kind of crappy Olympus maybe camera, a really bad one that used to belong to my parents. But then, because my grandpa died sometime around, I think it was 2009 was when he died, with money from him, we bought two things which have remained very integral to me to this day, and to my history. There was the camera that I still use to this day, and the Mac, which unfortunately did give up at the Ghost in 2015, but has remained with us in spirit and has merely regenerated into a newer model since. But no, yeah, so I had that camera and lost the lens cap there. Another random memory. Lost it on the beach. My dad and I looked for hours. God knows where it went. Yeah. But anyway, that was just a little tangent there. A little section on figure stories and stuff. Didn't expect for it to be as long as it perhaps has ended up being, but there we go. This is the point of these videos, to trigger my memory for new old stuff and memories, if nothing else. So let's have a look at my list and what else I've got. Oh gosh, yes, okay. Alongside the figure story stuff, basically, to cut a long story short, around this time, I used to kind of write story. Well, I didn't write the stories, but I came up with stories in my head for a kind of Doctor Who spin-off style thing called Richard Lloyd Who. That's out there now. Embarrassment out of the way. But no, on a serious note, it was like SJA, and I imagined that me and my friends from school were kind of part of the Doctor Who universe, and we had adventures. And like with the figure stories, I made stories up, kind of planned out series. I don't remember much about them now. I probably never even scripted many of them or wrote them up beyond their initial synopsises. But hey, yeah, that's another thing that happened. And I used to draw book covers and stuff as well. I got really into it. I kind of drew promotional art and coloured it with felt tips. And like I say, I made kind of fact file books as well, like the ones you used to buy about Doctor Who, but with me and my made up monsters and the Doctor, and linking it all together into the massive Doctor Who canon. It sounds a bit egotistical, actually, not gonna lie, looking back, but no, it wasn't like that. It was just me wanting to be part of the Doctor Who universe, and you know, it was the first time that I was writing stories with this, and with the figure stories. I suppose it was the first example of me being inspired by Doctor Who to be creative and to write my own stories. And of course now, as you might know, that's what I want to do. I want to be a writer for television or something in the future. So hey, that's where it all started in 2010, with some figures and proposals for a spin-off series based on my adventures with the Doctor. Yeah. Gosh, yeah. So I'll just briefly touch on the remaining things on my list, hopefully not for too long. The adventure games was another big thing this year. I remember the BBC saying, oh, there's not 13 episodes of Doctor Who this year, there are actually 17. Yeah, a little bit of a ploy there. But no, 4 extra episodes in the form of computer games that you could download to your PC or Mac. This is quite a big thing for me because I didn't have a games console at the time. It's only recently that my brother has managed to get an Xbox. But my parents weren't big on the idea of having games consoles back then. So to have a Doctor Who game that I could literally just download onto my computer that I already had and play was amazing. And I used to spend hours on them, you know. You wouldn't just sit through one episode and get through it in one go. You'd save your progress at the checkpoints and go back to them later to finish it off in many sessions, really, you know, as long as it took. And you had to get all the little cards and stuff as well, all the hidden extras. You had to be thorough and do the job properly until you could finally say, yes, I've finished this game and it's complete. But no, they were great fun, really great fun. Looking back, the graphics probably don't quite hold up, although it was pretty good, and it was a coup to get Matt Smith and Karen Gillan in to voice their characters and to base the 3D models on them. Yeah, to be honest, why haven't they done something like this since? It's a shame that, well, I'll go on to talk about the cancellation of the adventure games, I suppose, in the 2011 video, the next one, but it's a shame that we didn't get any more past these initial 4 and the Gunpowder Plot the following year. Apart from that, there's just stuff like Dwa, Doctor Adventures, another massive part of my life, just, ticking away in the background each week. In particular, by this point in my life, I'd become a cathedral chorister. If you don't know, that involved many hours of singing a week. They used to say about 20, I think. And I won't bore you with all the details of that, because that's not Doctor Who related directly. But the one relevant bit from that was that on a Thursday night, there was a late rehearsal from 6:30 to 7:30 after the evening service. So after the norm, the standard day, you had that on top. And as a youngster, I used to dread it. I absolutely dreaded it, because even though it was just an extra hour stuck on at the end, that made all the difference to a 9-year-old child. Or a 10-year-old by this point, whenever. So Dwa, which was obviously published on Thursday, was really the highlight of my week. And Series 5 episodes as well. Getting through that Thursday night rehearsal and getting through the week in general, to get Doctor Adventures on the Thursday and then to progress on to the Saturday episode. Doctor Who was very much the highlight of my week, even way back then. And then finally, Christmas 2010. The one thing I remember getting this year actually was an iPod, I think it was a Nano or a Shuffle. The really basic square one. The story behind this was that my brother had got an MP3 player, how posh that sounded at the time, 7 years ago, earlier in the year, and I think my parents felt that maybe I felt a bit left out. I don't think I did, but anyway, I got an iPod Shuffle. I'm going to call it a Shuffle. I think it was a Shuffle. And that was the start of me listening to Doctor Who music and soundtracks. So after that, I bought all sorts of songs. I think mainly from the Series 6 soundtrack is what I remember. So it must have been a year later, perhaps, before I started doing it in earnest. But definitely, oh yes, there was that website called televisiontunes.com where you could, probably illegally, download free Doctor Who tracks, some released, some unreleased, and that is where I got my music from to put onto my iPod, and I listened to it and had fun doing it. And that was that, the start of me listening to Doctor Who soundtracks. Apart from that, A Christmas Carol that day, very good, special at the time, and even better now. I appreciate it even more in hindsight. It's such a masterful piece of writing from Stephen Moffat, and a great way to end the year. And I suppose theoretically, let's end this with the trailer we got. Yeah, because we got a trailer, didn't we? At the end of that episode, we got a trailer for Series 6 Part 1, 2011. Things like the Peg Dolls and the America stuff from Utah. All of that. The Doctor's Wife footage from that as well, with Idris and the TARDIS and stuff like that. Another hugely exciting time. The dawn of a brand new series, Matt Smith's second. But that is something that I will obviously save for my next video, part 4 of the series, looking at Doctor Who in 2011. As for this video, thank you so much for watching. Please put in the comments your memories of Doctor Who in 2010 and any thoughts or things you might want to say to me or about the things that I've said in this video as well. Stick it all in the comments and I will look at them and respond if necessary. Otherwise, yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon for something else. Possibly the next one of these, maybe something else in the interim. I'll see how I go. But for now, that's it. So goodbye, folks.